Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. At that very hour, some Pharisees came to Jesus and said, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me, 'Listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day, I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often I have desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you, and I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Christ. Have you ever heard the phrase, "Skin folk ain't always kinfolk"? The first time I heard this phrase, I was trying to create a campus ministry that would feel comfortable and safe for Black students on my college campus. I had a few informal conversations with student organizations like our Black Student Union and the United Women of Color, asking their leaders for guidance. They told me to be careful. Not all skin folk are kinfolk, they said. They warned me that some of our administrators might choose their paycheck or their reputation with their school over the well-being of students of color, even if they were people of color themselves. The experience reminded me of what my father told me about the apartheid government in South Africa. The government counted on people to choose to value their own power over the well-being of people around them. They purposely gave certain groups of people more privilege than others. The Indian community was given representation in government, which was a luxury that was never afforded to Indigenous South Africans. However, Indian representation in government was entirely powerless and could do nothing to help the Indian community achieve equality. The apartheid government relied on the assumption that individuals' desire for power or safety or autonomy would outweigh our communal desire for freedom and equality. This theme of opposing desires runs through our gospel text today. The Greek word thelo, which means to desire, is used 3 times in 5 short verses. The first is Herod's desire to kill Jesus, which of course is connected to his desire to maintain his own power. Herod was the leader of the Jewish people, but his power was subject to Roman rule. Any hope for his people's freedom would threaten Roman rule and jeopardize Herod's position of power under Rome. So whenever a prophet came along, calling for freedom from oppression, Herod would kill that prophet to protect his own power, to prove that he could control his people on behalf of the empire. Herod's desire for his own power pushed him to betray his people to uphold the empire's oppression. He chose to be one of those skin folk who ain't kinfolk. The second use of the word thelo is when we hear Jesus tell people of Jerusalem that he desires to gather them up like a mother hen gathers her chicks. Before our gospel text this week, Jesus has been traveling and healing people and casting out demons at each stop along his journey. When Jesus arrives in Jerusalem, the Pharisees come to warn him about Herod. The Pharisees are religious leaders who hold wealth and power because of their cooperation with Herod and his Roman masters. When they warn Jesus that Herod wants him dead, Jesus is not surprised. He knows Jerusalem's reputation, and he is aware that the work he does threatens Herod and Rome. But his work is rooted in a desire to care for his people, to seek what is in their best interest, and to set them free from what oppresses them, be that an earthly empire or an evil spirit. During apartheid, there were many freedom movements that developed to oppose the racist government. One of these movements is the movement that radicalized my father, the Black Consciousness Movement. This movement was led by Stephen Bantu Biko. It was a movement that took inspiration from and collaborated with the American Black Power movement. It sought to educate oppressed people about their own right to dignity and called them to defend the dignity of all people. One of Biko's most famous quotes was this: "The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed." This brings us to the final use of the word thelo in our gospel reading, when Jesus names that the people do not desire to be gathered together by their nurturing mother hen. They do not desire Jesus' care for them and their freedom. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So Jesus says he will leave their house to them, and he will return when they are willing to welcome him, when they are willing to free their minds. Maybe some of you feel trapped in Herod's position, or in the position of the Pharisees, stuck between protecting your own power, safety, or wealth, and fighting for the power, safety, and needs of your community. It can be so hard to see how to move forward from that place. And this is by design. Empire, or the oppressive systems of the world, want you to feel stuck. They don't want you to be able to even imagine what real freedom and equality for everyone looks like. These systems control our media. They control our curriculums in school. They've even controlled the way that the gospel is preached. Our oppressors have slowly and steadily infiltrated our minds. So in order to free our communities, we must work to free our minds. Your imagination can become a potent tool for resistance. Jesus' desire is to gather us up into loving community, because loving community teaches us to imagine freedom. When I can participate in worship, or when I can serve alongside my community, it reminds me that we are stronger together. You might find it easier to picture what freedom looks like in moments where you see people upholding the dignity of others. You might find it easier to see freedom on the horizon when you can read the stories of people who have seen it too. If we can picture freedom, if we can see it in our minds and set our minds on it, then we have taken the first step in reclaiming our minds from the hands of our oppressors. It may seem like such a small thing to be able to imagine freedom, to imagine every person's needs met and dignity restored. In the face of all the problems we see today, it may seem useless. What will imagination change? What will it change for me to be more connected to other people who are just as stuck as me? So let's look at what Jesus changed. Jesus didn't take down the Roman Empire. Jesus didn't even take down Herod or the Pharisees. Jesus did exactly what he told us his desire was. He gathered people together. He healed them and then freed their minds. Jesus created a way for us to be free, to live in freedom, even while we are outwardly oppressed. And then he called us to go and to share that freedom with others. We may not be able to fix everything wrong with our government or our religious institutions, but we can rally with others who are willing to try. We may not be able to feed and clothe and house every person we meet, but we might be able to treat them with dignity. We might be able to pay for one meal or spare one coat. We may not be able to break down the systems that oppress us today, but as long as we can still picture freedom on the horizon, we may be able to join together and work towards freedom in the days to come. Amen.